Have you ever looked at a picture and argued with a friend about what you were seeing? This happened to millions of people back in 2015. A simple photograph of a dress appeared online, and well, a fierce debate began. Was the dress blue and black, or was it white and gold? People were absolutely certain of what they saw, yet their answers were completely different. It showed us that what we see is not always a perfect copy of the world. Our brains are constantly interpreting, guessing, and sometimes getting it spectacularly wrong. The dress was just the beginning of a much deeper story. The question of the dress's color is not just a silly internet game, it is actually a profound demonstration of how our perception works. Our brains are incredible survival machines. They evolved to make quick decisions, to find patterns in chaos, and to predict what will happen next. To do this efficiently, they take shortcuts. They fill in missing information and make assumptions based on what has been true in the past. Your brain does the same thing with vision. Most of the time, these shortcuts work perfectly. But these shortcuts are also the reason optical illusions exist. An illusion is simply a situation where your brain's best guess turns out to be wrong. It is like a magician who knows exactly how to distract you to perform a trick. Illusions pull back the curtain and show us the machinery at work behind the scenes. Our journey into perception begins with the eye, an amazing biological camera. Light from the world around us enters through the pupil. It is focused by the lens onto the retina. The retina is covered with millions of photoreceptor cells. Cones are responsible for seeing color and fine detail, and they work best in bright light. Rods are more sensitive to light and dark. These cells convert light energy into electrical signals, the language that the brain understands. However, the eye is not a perfect camera. It has limitations and built-in biases that influence what we see from the very start. For example, there is a spot on the retina where the optic nerve leaves the eyeball. This spot has no photoreceptor cells, a blind spot. Our eyes are constantly in motion. They make tiny, rapid movements called saccades. The brain stitches these snapshots into a seamless view. The brain edits out the blur of the saccades, stabilizes the image, and presents us with a coherent view of reality. The information that leaves the eye is a stream of electrical signals, full of gaps, more like a rough draft than a finished painting. This draft is then sent to the brain's visual processing centers in the occipital lobe, where the real magic of interpretation happens. Imagine you are looking down a long, straight road, or a pair of train tracks. The parallel lines appear to converge, meeting at a point in the distance. This is linear perspective. Our brains have learned that objects farther away appear smaller. It uses this rule to judge size and distance. The Ponzo illusion exploits this shortcut. Two identical horizontal lines sit between converging lines. Both are the same length, but the top line appears longer. Two objects can only project the same retinal size if the farther one is physically larger, so the brain deduces the top line must be larger. The brain adjusts perceived size based on perceived distance, automatic and deeply ingrained. In real life, this keeps a person walking away from us from looking like they're shrinking. The Ponzo illusion hijacks that mechanism by adding fake depth cues on a flat surface. Let's look at another classic illusion that plays with our perception of size and space. The Muller-Lyer illusion presents us with two straight lines. One has inward-pointing arrowheads, the other outward-pointing fins. When you look at them, the line with outward-pointing fins appears to be noticeably longer, yet a ruler shows they are identical. One explanation is the carpentered world hypothesis. Our experience with buildings and corners trains our brains to read angles as depth cues. The inward-finned line resembles an outside corner projecting toward you. The outward-finned line resembles an inside corner receding away. Like the Ponzo illusion, the brain uses size constancy scaling, stretching or shrinking the line perceptually. People from environments with fewer rectangular buildings are sometimes less susceptible to this illusion. Perception is shaped by experience. Our visual rules are learned, not entirely universal. The illusion works because it taps into learned associations about perspective and distance. Now, let's explore an illusion that reveals how our brain actively creates objects rather than just passively seeing them. Look at the Canisa triangle. What you will likely see is a bright white triangle pointing upwards. But here is the secret. There is no upward-pointing triangle drawn on the page. All that is actually there are three black Pac-Man shapes and three V shapes. This is a perfect example of top-down processing. Higher-level areas send signals down, using knowledge, memories, and expectations to interpret input. Your brain prefers simple, complete shapes over fragmented ones, a principle from Gestalt psychology. It fills in the missing edges, creating illusory contours you perceive as clearly as if they were drawn. This ability helps us recognize partially hidden objects, vital for spotting a camouflaged animal in foliage. The Kinesa triangle gives us a simple way to witness this creative ability. The brain builds a reality that goes beyond raw sensory data. This top-down process is automatic. You cannot will yourself not to see the triangle. It's not trickery for its own sake. It's a window into how our predictive brain constructs stability from noise. Our final illusion is perhaps one of the most stunning demonstrations of how context can completely override reality. It is called the checker shadow illusion, created by Professor Edward Adelson at MIT. A green cylinder rests on a checkerboard and casts a shadow over part of the board. There are two squares labeled A and B. Square A is in the light. It appears dark gray. Square B is in the shadow. It appears light gray. The illusion is this: squares A and B are exactly the same shade of gray. The trick is our brain's assumptions about light and shadow. Your visual system doesn't measure absolute brightness. It infers lightness by compensating for shadows. If something looks gray in shadow, the brain reasons it must be lighter in reality, so it perceptually brightens it. For square A, outside the shadow and surrounded by lighter squares, the brain reasons it must be dark. Perception is relative, not absolute. We see surfaces in relation to their surroundings. Direction and intensity of light, and shadows, all matter. We don't see pixel by pixel like a camera. The brain edits images for survival useful interpretations, not photographic accuracy. The checker shadow illusion proves our brain doesn't give raw reality. It gives an edited, predictive version optimized for behavior. Illusions aren't flaws, they're signatures of a predictive, complex brain at work. What if I told you your brain can literally invent reality? It sounds wild, but today we proved it with 5 illusions that warp perception. Get ready to test these on your friends. And remember, differing perceptions aren't mistakes, they're clues to how minds work. Our vision is a collaboration between eyes and brain, an edited, predictive model shaped by experience and context. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe and try these illusions at home. Tell us which one fooled you the most. Thanks for watching. And next time you see something, ask, is that the world or the brain?